I'm Leo Walter for Kit Guru, and this little case here is the Thermaltake Core G3. So place your bets. What do you think it is? Mini ITX, micro ATX, what? Surprise, surprise, it's actually ATX. I'll give you a look inside in just a moment. What Thermaltake has done here is they've taken a case that can be either stood upright like a regular tower or laid down to put under your TV, and they've managed to cram a whole ATX motherboard inside something that is not the least bit large. The one dimension that is particularly small is the sort of the width in this plane. Obviously, if you lay it down, that's the height, which is only 140mm, and the consequence of that is that you can only put a CPU cooler on that's 110mm tall, which is quite low profile. But once you get past that, it is a surprisingly fully featured case. You can put a liquid cooler in the front or the roof, or you can put a couple of fans in. Let me just turn it slightly. It's got a windowed panel, so we need to turn it just a bit to give you a little bit of a view, and then we'll turn it back and we'll take off the panel. Now, the thing about this case is it is really cheap. An old price in the UK, £57.90. Call it 60 quid. So cheap. Right, that's the windowed side panel, which pretty much sums it up because it's steel and it's got a clip-in sort of Perspex-y thing going on. Almost nothing to write home about. And then I can turn this around now without any reflections, and you can see, voila, a fully featured PC. The really clever thing they've done with this case is that this is an SFX power supply behind the two drive bays. This happens to be a Corsair SF600 600 watt gold power supply, fully modular, despite the tiny, tiny size. You can get a similar power supply from Silverstone. And in a way, that's kind of the key to this case, which is that there are a few decent quality SFX power supplies on the market now. So the result is power supply sits there, power cord in the back in the usual style, cables here, 2.5, 3.5 inch drive bays there, caddies at the front, I'll show you in a mo. And the consequence is power supplies and drives are kind of in this slice down here, which means that up here you've got space for motherboard. At the front of the case as stock, you get a pair of these 120mm fans, which are frankly nothing special. I've removed them both, put one over there, and one is in the roof of the case above the graphics card, and I put in the front a 120mm Corsair liquid cooler, an H60. I'll just shut off the power. Incidentally, the lights, it's worth pointing out, that is Corsair LED DDR4 glowing away there, and also on the back, as it happened, the Gigabyte motherboard I've used has an illuminated I/O panel. Once you take those lights out of the equation, there is nothing going on in the way of lighting from the Thermaltake itself. Let me just pull the power cord, brutally, like so, and as you can see, it's now looking somewhat more dull. And off with the back panel, thumb screws, which is just a cheapy piece of plain steel. Now on the back side of the thing, we've got nothing to write home about whatsoever, except you do have some access to the back of the motherboard. So everything's going on here. Now what I've got is, I've got a Gigabyte X99 UD4 motherboard, that's LGA 2011-3. I've got a Core i7 5820K, which for a build like this is a little bit daft, but fun. And then as mentioned, some Corsair DDR4 LED RAM. Now the graphics card, it's the location that's unusual, because as you can see, it's in this plane here, because you get a riser cable actually, that plugs into the PCI Express slot and then folds around your graphics card, then goes on the two output slots here. Now I've used there a Sapphire R9285 Mini ITX compact graphics card, and it fits obviously with loads of space. I did, while playing around with this case, also try an Asus R9390 Strix graphics card, full length thing. It went in, not a lot of clearance, and it's got heat pipes and all sorts of stuff. It went in, no problem at all. So you can fit, if you want a full featured graphics card in this case. If you got some, 3-slot card, good luck to you. It's not going to happen. Now, the business with the PCI Express riser is kind of a game of two halves, really, because on the one hand, it means the graphics card goes in this plane here, which means they haven't had to accommodate it across the case, hence they can go for slim. On the other hand, it does mean you are obliged to put it this way. You haven't got the choice of slots either way, which means that the entire thing is basically hanging off the two screws that secure the graphics card. This end is more or less unsupported. Well, in the case of this ITX card, it is unsupported. With the R9390, there are these sorts of two screw-in kind of rests. Anyway, it's bits of plastic with some sort of foam rubber on to just support the card. So when the case is laid down like so, and the graphics card is like that, it rests on that little stand. Put it up like that, and it's essentially hanging in the breeze. The other thing was that's the one there. The other one you can put basically where you like it, sort of mounted in some slots, but the location is highly dubious. You don't get a lot of say where it goes. It has to go in the mounting holes, and it has to line up with the graphics card, but that was precisely in line with the R9 390 with where the power connectors went. So the support on this side was hopeless. So if you're standing your case upright, then a big graphics card, wasn't very happy with that. Then again, why would you buy a really cheap case to put really high-end stuff in? A fair question, I feel. Other than that, there's not actually a lot to report. So on the front, we've got this front panel, which has two USB 3, two USB 2, headset jacks, power and reset buttons. And if I pull it, it just comes away like so. On the inside, we've got a clip-in dust filter. It's just a sort of gauze sheet that comes out quite easily. And then down the bottom we have two drive caddies. That's it, that's the one I've not used, which for a 3.5 the drive just clips in those little pegs there, and 2.5 you have to screw it in place. And I've put an SSD, an OCZ, Toshiba OCZ it is now, Vector 180 SSD in that bay there. And you can see now, it's looking quite Spartan. We do have on the top another magnetic dust filter, or rather a magnetic dust filter. The front one's clip-in. On the bottom there is also a magnetic dust filter, like so. And then if we just revert to that side panel that I casually whipped past, crash bang wallop, there, above the window, another tiddly little dust filter for the ventilation. So even though this is a really cheap case, as I say, less than £60, it's actually quite hard to level many complaints against Thermaltake. The expression built to a price sounds quite pejorative, it sounds quite rude, but in this instance I think it's exactly accurate. They've basically said, how can we build a really cheap case that's really quite small, that can take proper hardware? Oh, alright, we'll use an SFX power supply, fair enough, and really cheap. Well, we'll just make a kind of steel thing that hasn't got a lot going on. We'll put some mounts in, we'll give you some fans. What more do you want? And the truth of it is, I can't really argue with that. It does everything you want. It does not look great. I mean, it's not a beautiful case, but if it does the job, if you're going to park it under your TV, who cares? The idea of tempered glass and aluminium, so on and so forth, is all well and good in its place when you can see the thing. When you're going to hide it away, it's fairly pointless. Ventilation, because it's so compact, it's not great, I have to say. Also, cable management is non-existent. I mean, it's just non-existent. As you can see, the back, there's nothing going on. It's all about power supply here, cabling there. If you go for a liquid cooler, the hoses go where they went. I want the liquid cooler partly because this processor benefits from it, but also because, frankly, a low-profile air cooler is one thing, going there. On the other hand, the liquid cooler, you actually have better ability to take the heat away in this case. If I could have stood a 120 tower in there, I may well have done it, but didn't. So these hoses actually touch, well, this hose touches against the side panel, against the window. The cabling just runs here, and then up the top, there's kind of all this stuff that's just hanging just below that fan that I've installed, which, as I say, I moved from this location. So in a way, that's not really a fair complaint of Thermaltake, because the fan isn't supposed to be there, but there is a fan mount, so it's not unreasonable. But in terms of securing the cables, tidying them up, there is not a lot you can do. So in that sense, it's a fairly horrible build. Also, you'll be pleased to know I did wrestle the CPU thermal block around, so the Corsair logo is the correct way up, just to keep you all happy. Now, one thing I will observe is that the window's on the wrong side. If you stand the tower like so, and this is the front, that's the back, the window would normally be there, but instead it's here. So if you are a, left-hander, I suppose, if you park your PC over there in the vertical plane, then that's lovely. We had that comment about a Silverstone case I reviewed, which I think it's Silverstone. Anyway, a case, no, the Be Quiet 900, where a few people said, actually, I like to have my PC the other side. It's like, fair enough if you do, well, in which case this is for you. But I have to say that's a mere detail. So, It's really small, it's compact, it requires an SFX power supply, you can put a regular motherboard in, you can put a proper graphics card in, you do have to use the PCI Express riser cable, you've got no choice about that. Cable management is an absolute shocker, but by God it's cheap. So there we go, certainly novel. I'm Leo Walter for Kit Guru. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down, leave us a comment. Do engage in conversation, we like that at Kit Guru. If you want more videos from us, click to subscribe. I'm Leo Walter for Kit Guru. This is Thermaltake Core G3.